Hello, this is Summer with Summer's Tips and Stitches, and today I wanted to make a quick video. To do this, I needed to have the handheld or the little camera stand, because I want to show you something that I have done to fix something that bothered me when I crocheted. So what I've got here is just regular worsted weight yarn, my Clover Amore hook, and this is an H or a 5mm hook. Now this is the problem, and it's maybe just a personal problem that I do not like when I crochet sometimes. I noticed it first when I did a scarf. When I am doing my rows back and forth, that first stitch always is a little wonky, and there's a little bit of space here, a little space there, one there and one there. So there are two ways that I fix it depending on the pattern. So this is basically how that little hole gets started. This is just rows of double crochet back and forth in this little swatch. First, chain 3, because technically when you're doing rows of double crochets, most patterns will ask you to chain 3 for the beginning of the next row. When you go to do the next stitch, you do not go into this place right here. That is technically underneath the chain 3. So what you do is you yarn over and you go through this stitch. Pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull up a loop. So I'm going to do a couple double crochets, and in doing this I feel like this weird little gap thing is made because this is your chain 3. So the first thing that I have heard people say to do to alleviate this little gap is to chain 2. Whenever a pattern calls for you to chain 3 for a double crochet, I've seen quite a lot of folks on crochet boards on Facebook say only chain 2. And in doing so, it kind of makes your turning chain a little shorter, and it has to be pulled a little bit more from the double crochet, and so that gap is not as prominent. Do you see that? It's not as prominent. Is it completely fixed? I don't always say so, but I mean, you can see that this gap here is a little smaller than that one there. Now, this is what I do personally when I want to avoid this gap. The times that it bothers me the most is one, when I make it a baby sweater, and the second time that it bothered me the most when I was just doing a plain scarf with double crochets back and forth. So what I have come up with that I do to solve that little gapping problem, when I come to this row, well, here, let me start off. I do a chain 3. I stick with that, and then I yarn over and I go into this very first stitch. This very one that I had just told you previously to not go into. I poke through, I yarn over, I pull up a loop, I yarn over and pull through 2. So essentially I do half of a double crochet, and I leave that little shorty right there. Then I yarn over again, and then I go into that first stitch, the one that you probably should have gone into to begin with, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and then you'll have 3 loops. You'll have your original chain 3, you'll have your loop from your little shorty double crochet there, and then you'll have the loop that you just pulled through, and then I yarn over and I pull through 3. Now technically that is described as doing 2 stitches together. A lot of times patterns will have you do that if they're trying to decrease. A lot of times I do that if my stitch count's off and I just want to get it together. So right here I did this little shorty stitch. Do you see that? It's completely filled in. And the nice thing is, as I bring it up and hope to focus, is that because you did these 2 stitches together, you did not add a double crochet because you put them together. This is the one stitch above these two, and then that's the stitch above the chain 3. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to double crochet all the way across, and then I'm going to show you what it looks like to crochet into the top of that little stitch I made. Okay, so just 1 minute. Okay, so I'm coming right up. This is the stitch right above where I joined those two little shorties. Do you see that? They join up. Now you will see there's this little, the top of the double crochet. Here's the, oh, you can't even see it, folks. I'm sorry. Okay, so here is where, oh, I had a long day. I'm sorry. Okay, so here is where I did this little double 2 stitches together. Here is the top of the double crochet, and here is that shorty that I pulled through all 3. Right here is the top of these 2 stitches. Now the reason you have to make sure you go through that one spot is because you've made 2 stitches into one, and if you went through both, you see that, you are going to add another stitch. Now as you're finishing up your row, you're going to do a double crochet into the top of the chain 3 from the previous row. And that's it, friends. That is what it looks like on both sides when you do, let me zoom or focus, when you do those little half shorty stitches. It is much, I think, fuller looking. Now, would I do this in every type of pattern I do? Probably not. What I would do, like I said, for sure in baby sweaters and scarves, maybe blankets. But first I do a few rows and I see what it looks like. And if this kind of situation is occurring, you know, whenever I do the chain 3, then I go back and I change it. So that's just a personal preference. Now, part of the reason why I even made this video is because I have a friend who is just learning how to crochet, and she was having kind of a problem when she was trying to figure out, like, is this right? You know, and you know who you are if you watch my videos on YouTube. She wanted to go back into that stitch, and I had to remind her, no, this stitch is part of that chain 3. And you see right here, no gap. There's nothing there. It's nice and solid. So that is it. That's pretty much all I have in this video. I just wanted to make a little video to share with you the 2 ways that I try to avoid those gaps. One is I do a chain 2 instead of chain 3 for double crochets, and then the other way is I create that little shorty stitch. Technically it's 2 double crochets together. I'll show you again real quick over here just in case y'all want to see it and you were like, oh, I don't want to rewind. Chain 3, yarn over, go through that very first stitch right next to that chain 3, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, leave 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, go through that very first stitch that you should have gone through previously, yarn over, pull up a loop, you'll have 4 on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2, now you'll have 3 on the hook, you'll have your chain 3, your little shorty stitch, and half of a double crochet, and then yarn over and pull through all 3. That is how I personally fix my little gaps. Now, if it doesn't bother you, go for it, folks. Just do what you got to do. But I was very pleasantly surprised or felt better that somebody else also was feeling a little iffy about that spot. And that is what I told her to do. And when you come back around, if this were a full blanket, you then would, also the nice thing is, I think if you were to add a border to this, you'll have a nice thick place to poke into for doing your border. All right, well, that's all I have. Unfortunately, I have to go into work tomorrow. Turns out the daycare center I work in is trying to get a certification, a 5-star certification with the Learning Young Star program. And so I need to go in to get observed. So please, if you are someone that wants to take a few moments to send me a prayer, that'd be great, because I'm going to be observed, and it will affect whether or not we get our 5-star rating. I get to teach a bunch of 4-year-olds, preschool teacher, that's what I am, and I'm a bit nervous. So that's what I'm doing, and then Saturday, August 18th is my birthday. Woo woo. So probably won't have a video until Sunday or Monday, August 19th or 20th. Until then, I hope everybody's having a nice summer. You're not all sweating in the humidity. And remember, getting last minute pool time before all your kids go back to school. Thanks for watching. Happy crafting.